Hello everyone, it's Melanie here, and today I thought I'd do a little bit of a reading video, what I've been reading. I used to have a YouTube channel and I gave that up a while ago, but I want to do the occasional book video here because I still love reading. It turns out you don't need to have a booktube channel to love reading. I loved reading before the booktube channel. I love it still, so it kind of works that way. I meant to do this video yesterday, but unfortunately the night before I only had 3 hours of sleep. So I was barely coherent and all energy I had went into the bit of work I had to do. And then I just crashed and slept for like 2 hours, and then I was still not coherent. And so my best laid plans of having a Monday video did not pan out. So I just have a little bit of a selection of like some things that I've recently finished, and then the things that I'm currently reading. So it's a little bit of a mix. So some of the things that I've recently finished, and I actually read that Sunday night when I couldn't sleep. The main reason I couldn't sleep is because my husband was felling trees, and I was having a lot of anxious energy. And so the combination of him felling trees in his sleep and me being anxious did not really mix very well. So I've read this in one fell swoop, not because it was brilliant, but because it was easy, considering I was quite tired but unable to sleep. And that is You've Got This by Maxine Murray. I never read one of her books, and the only reason why I read it was because it was set in Wales and I got it for free. And it's a romance, which is a genre that I would really like to read more of. I kind of like the idea of having this as a go-to easy read kind of thing, but it doesn't always work for me. I enjoyed the setting of this a lot, and I liked the theme of this young woman moving from London to Wales after her boyfriend actually dumps her while they're on a weekend trip in Wales, and she ends up working in the hotel where he dumps her. The hotel owner has a lovely son, and you can imagine where this might go. The things that I found annoying, and I just can never, once I start noticing these things, it's kind of like game over, because my brain will then be hunting for them. And that was like inconsistencies. So for example, the main male character meets her parents, and and then later on he asks to meet her parents for the first time, and I was like, dude, you already met them. Then there were other things, like he was such an inconsistently drawn character. In the beginning, like what she likes about him was that he was so calm and kind of instinctively knew what to do and say. And then later he is this person who constantly puts his foot in and has no tact. And then he changes again, and suddenly then there is trauma. So that was annoying as well. But yeah, I did like the setting, and and it was clearly an easy read. I mean, I just read that in one fell swoop. Haven't done that in a while. And and so that was kind of interesting, but nothing really to write home about. So the search for romance that I really love is still going. I did read some in the last year that I quite enjoyed, but let's not get too sidetracked. Let's not get sidetracked at all, ideally. Then I finished Joseph Knight by James Robertson. That's historical fiction set in the 18th century in Scotland. And it is about Joseph Knight, who is a slave who got his freedom. And the book is about him, or rather is not really about him. It's about how he got his freedom, and it's about the people who owned him and the people around him way more than it is about him. We only sort of learn about him through the story of the annoyance of the previous owner of the slave, that Joseph has now his freedom. There was things that I really liked about it, and that I kind of see what he tried to do. He tried to show the incredibly despicable nature of these people who own plantations and then were so far removed from it, living in Scotland in this case, and and having this wealth from the plantations, but they were so far removed from it. They didn't have to look at it, and we are faced with the horror. Whoopsie, made me jump here. That was the letterbox. I shall leave this in because I proper jumped, Anyway, yeah, so we're faced with the horror as well in parts of the book. What I would say is, like, it was okay. I quite like some of the dialogues. I think he's quite gifted in writing dialogue. It's also nice because he does write it in various Scottish accents, so you can tell like where people are coming from, what level of class they have and things like that. I quite like that, but I can understand that it makes it a bit hard to read for some people who may not be familiar with different dialects here on these islands. So yeah, I thought it was okay. The absence of women in the book or the narrative, apart from like some giggling daughters of his and things like that, is a little bit annoying, but I kind of want to give him the benefit of a doubt. I think it was a deliberate thing in terms of showing, like this kind of like these white men thinking they're ruling everything kind of notion. So yeah, I enjoyed it, and to an extent, it wasn't brilliant, it wasn't awful, it was all right. Yeah, so that's what I can say. Then a book that I very much enjoyed is The Grave Robbery by Deanna Raybourn. That's the latest in her long-running Veronica Speedwell series. I have loved all of them. This one was really good. It's very crazy and full of adventure and, absolute mayhem. And I love the banter and I love the wittiness, and yeah, so I always enjoy those. It's mysteries, as if you don't know them. And then my non-fiction read that I most recently finished is Crypt by Alice Roberts. I went to see Alice Roberts' book launch here in Birmingham at Town Hall. It was really good. Even though there was, oh my God, there was a medical incident. I mean, if you don't know Alice Roberts is an archaeological paleontologist. So it's all about bones, yeah? So she examines bones. She, the series Bones. So she is that, yeah? But for archaeology. And she writes books about it, and she has a TV show here on the BBC about digging for Britain, where she goes around digs that are happening all over Great Britain, United Kingdom, Great Britain. Oh yeah, throwback. The United Kingdom, and and sort of talks about the finds and things like that. And obviously she's very much interested in bones, but also like the context of historical situation. In archaeology, especially when we go, the further back we go, bones is quite often the only thing we have. But her latest book, Crypt, is very much based on death and disease in the Middle Ages. And quite often the only historical things we have are obviously those written often in monasteries, like official histories, or ledgers and things like that. But we often don't have the stories of the individual people. So the bones and the way they're buried can often tell us way more about how people lived, which may be weird considering they're dead. But, like death shows us a lot about how we lived. I really enjoyed it. She wrote it in the sense like of a few stories, providing historical context, bringing the bone finds within that historical context, and then leading us to the conclusion of what this particular archaeological dig and the find of those bones has told historians and archaeologists about that time period. I find that stuff fascinating. Could read that all day, every day, watch every program, sign me up. Love it. In another life, I would have become an archaeologist. So what I'm currently reading is also a little bit of a mixed bag. I always like to have that. The first one is an audiobook that I'm listening to, and that is The Benevolent Society of Ill-Mannered Ladies by Alison Goodman. I literally only just started that yesterday while I was cleaning the kitchen in my very tired state. And, I quite like it. It's sort of set, I believe, I'm not quite sure yet where we are at, but I believe we're in the Regency period. I didn't really read too much about the synopsis. I think I did at one point because it was on my wish list, and so I just bought it, so I'm listening to it, and yeah, it is, I like the narration so far. It's a fairly long one, which is nice, because we are going down to London on the train, so I can listen to a bit of it on the train while knitting, because the kid will be listening to their music, so it's good. And so I'm quite enjoying that. I started reading the Shell House Detectives by Amelia Hall last night, and I am surprising myself. This is a contemporary mystery. I'm not often very good with contemporary mysteries. I'm so used to reading historical mysteries that I always get a little bit flummoxed when they pull out their cell phone. And things like that. So there's very few in comparison in a year that I read that are contemporary, but I do quite like it. It's set in Cornwall, and it features a woman who lives on a house by the sea, and she likes to walk on the beach looking for, basically she beachcombs. She's looking for finds and things like that. And her husband used to be a police detective, but he died. And the other main character is a young man who's married, and his wife is originally from Cornwall, and he used to be a police detective, but he left the force after a tragic incident, and now he finds himself a little bit at a loose end down there in Cornwall. He's also mixed race, which his father-in-law likes to tell him that there's not that many people of you down here. We don't really do diversity. And so he sticks out a little bit as well. And then there is this, what seems to be a tragic accident of a young man, and then the disappearance of a woman. And they are drawn into it for various reasons. And I do have to say, I do quite enjoy it. I like the setting. It's very evocative of the place. You do really feel like you're at the beach, and so yeah, I do love that. And then the other book that I'm currently reading is a non-fiction. I always have a non-fiction on the go now, and that is The Lost Flock by Jane Cooper. Jane Cooper was originally born, I think, here in the Midlands, but she moved to Scotland to save a breed of sheep. She's a knitter, and she fell in love with those sheep, and she realized that this breed of sheep was close to extinction, so she made it her mission to save them, and so she became a breeder of these sheep. I love stories like that, and I love anything obviously to do with textiles and knitting, so whenever I find a non-fiction book that is about that topic, I'm just, I will read it, and I am enjoying this a lot so far. I'm not that far in, maybe 20-30 pages yet. I only started it the other day, but I feel the vibe is good. So yeah, that's it really. I hope you enjoyed this little reading rundown, and I'll hope to be back on Friday. Tonight is my first crafting social that we have reinvigorated, a friend of mine and I. There used to be one like that around here, and tonight is the first one. So I'm going out, people. I don't know how I feel about that, but I'm going out. Anyway, I'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.